Hi everyone, it's Karen from Karen's Quilts, Crows, and Cardinals blog and Redbird Quilt Co. here for another installment of our 2016 Redbird Quilt Co. free motion quilt along. We're working on the beautiful Lose Balloons growth chart panel by World of Susie B, and we've made progress to finally getting to the background fabric and stitching the background on this lovely panel. If you watched the earlier video in this lesson, you'll see that I have decided against stitching clouds in the background area and gone ahead and decided to do some swirly windy movement. The windy movement kind of goes along with the way that Lou and his friends are drifting off on the balloons. So the windy movement kind of fits really well in with the panel, and also we can do it in a density that's not too tight to kind of go along with the same density that we've been quilting the panel. So what I've done is, and I would encourage you to do the same if you're new at this, is I went ahead and marked some swirly windy markings on the actual background fabric, and I used a purple water and air soluble pen to do that. And this pen I talked about in some of our earlier sessions, but it's a water or air soluble purple marker, and it works great, comes out great with the Clover eraser pen if you have one, and we'll take it right out, or over time it'll come out with air, or it will come out with just regular water. So whatever you decide to do. So I went ahead and marked just some simple lines, kind of climbing up the background fabric to mark in these swirly, windy swirls that we're going to stitch tonight. I'm going to go ahead. I have all my standard quilting notions on just like normal, and you can see all of that information on our starter blog post. I have my Machinger's gloves on. I have a Supreme slider installed. I'm using the Aurifil 50 weight thread in the light robin's egg blue. I believe it's 2710. Yes, it is 2710 Aurifil 50 weight in the top and the bobbin. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch with that because it actually matches the background fabric perfectly. So it won't stick out like a sore thumb if you make any mistakes, but it will actually allow you to do some dense quilting if you need to, and it matches the background perfectly. So I'm going to go ahead and try to follow my marks up the panel, but I'm not going to let my marks control me. So remember, when you're doing the marking on something like this, it's different than marking a whole cloth quilt where you're actually trying to stitch exactly on the line. What we're trying to do is kind of tend to rough in where we're headed with our stitches. So these lines are a guide for you, but they shouldn't control you, and you shouldn't get too upset if you can't stick exactly to the line. So I think the main thing with these swirly, windy swirls is that we want to try to get a fluid movement going so that they actually look kind of natural. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. With that, I've taken a couple lock stitches. My threads aren't cut yet, but I'm not going to worry about that. But I'm going to go ahead and start climbing up my line. And actually, the faster I move, the better of a fluid movement that I'll get with my swirly, windy waves. So as you can see, I just went in and did, no different than any swirls that we've made. I climbed up, went around my mark, and then I came back out. And now I'm going to actually climb up it again because I think we're going to need a couple of different iterations of this. And then later on, if we don't think it's enough, we can always come back through and echo stitch what we've done. So I'm going to go ahead and climb up the inside of this again and back out. Okay, just kind of echo stitch what we've already done, basically. and just kind of tie it back down into where we started. Alright, so I'm actually going to travel that all the way back down to the point where we started so I can come up the other side and stitch in this other little windy swirl that we have going. And it doesn't really matter if you're exact down in here. When it's all done, it's really not going to matter. So I've worked my way down below the point where I started so that I don't have to trim my threads or anything. I can just now come up and kind of follow that same initial line and throw in my other swirl here. And in looking at it, it looks like I want to cut it a little bit shorter than what I actually marked it on my fabric. So that's the great part of the air and water soluble marker, is it doesn't have to control you, but it can just be a nice guide. So I'm going to cut a little bit short, do my swirl, work back out of it, and go down again. And now I'm going to climb up and echo that. I think this time I'm going to echo on the outside to kind of make it a little bit taller. Okay, great. So now I have two different little swirls there, and you know what? I might now want to come up and just kind of build just a slight little one up above the last one. Let's see. Let's give it a try. You see on that one I actually came around the outside of it rather than coming around the inside. It really doesn't matter one way or another which way you go. Okay, so let's see, I'm just going to take a couple lock stitches so that I can trim my threads and take a look at it. Now stand back, don't be too critical of your work. I think the longer of a swirl that we make, the harder it is to kind of make it look natural. So if you want, you can always cut yours just a little bit shorter than these. They don't have to be quite this long. But I think that worked out pretty good. I'm not sure if you can see that. I'll stop moving the fabric. I think that's a nice little swirl. I think that accents the panel just perfectly. So we're going to stick with it. You can use, if you have one of the Clover eraser pens, I would go ahead and get that out and kind of just erase over top of your lines and then step back and take a look and see what you think, see if you like it or not. But for now I think it looks perfect. So that's the kind of similar pattern I'm going to follow all the way up the panel. And if you look on the blog post, you'll see that I try to put still images there so you can get a feeling for how I finish this out, and then you can mimic that or you can do what works best for your eye. So that's going to be the end of our lesson for tonight. Now the next time we get together, we're going to be actually talking about the borders and stitching the borders, and then we're really, other than if you want to do some fine little details on your panel, we're just about done. It's really exciting. I love the way it's coming together. So thank you so much for stopping by tonight. Be sure to jump over to the blog post. A lot of details over there that you don't want to miss out on. Have a great night. Thank you.